Good afternoon, friends and colleagues. I'm speaking to you from Princeton, New Jersey, while wishing that I could be with you in Florence, a city that I have visited many times and always with pleasure. Given our subject, our project to address and begin to try to overcome the polarities, the contradictions, the conflicts of our social life, it seems especially important to meet, as we now say, in person, and to talk face to face. And so again, I wish I were talking with you. Living Together with Ambiguities is our title. And we are invited to address the deep divisions that have appeared in contemporary democracies and around the world, and to seek a politics that can accommodate differences and create and sustain a common life, a morality that can transcend our differences, and a version of internationalism within which we can accept difference and create solidarity. And finally, a version of education, a program of education that can make our differences comprehensible to each other. So I do want to stress, I use internationalism rather than cosmopolitanism. That's something that you may be talking about later on. For me, cosmopolitanism represents the abolition of the borders between our different common lives, whereas internationalism represents a commitment to cross those borders. Anyway, I have described the project, and that is your task these next 3 days, and I welcome you to it. I want now to say just a few words about America's divisions, which are not unlike yours. My only excuse for beginning with America is that I'm here, and this is what I worry about. And perhaps there is a further excuse. Our own authoritarian demagogue, Donald Trump, has become a universal symbol of democracy's troubles. And I can tell you, he is still a troubler of our democracy. America's divisions are fivefold, and they are interrelated in complex ways that I won't be able to say much about today. Race comes first. We now have a strongly assertive Black rights movement with Latino support, and to the surprise of many, with widespread support among white Americans, as was demonstrated in the marches of last summer. And this rights movement is confronted by white nationalists who speak a language of dominance, but in fact express a politics of nostalgia, anxiety, and fear. They see themselves beleaguered. They see themselves on the way to becoming a minority in what they think was their own country. Indeed, Black Lives Matter is a response to what their own country was actually like. And so Make America Great Again is an ominous slogan, since it suggests a return to a past that we would prefer to escape. The second division in the United States is religious. And it also reflects social change and fear. America was always a religiously pluralist society with episodes of anti-Catholic agitation and underlying an undertow of anti-Semitism, which persists, but a reasonably cohesive pluralist society. And something has changed now. The unexpected religious revival, the sudden appearance of religious zealots, has an American version. And the American version is the emergence of evangelical Christians as a significant political force, responding to the increasing secularization of American society. And so this is also a fearful response, a sense that they are losing what they imagine was a Christian republic, that secularism is taking over. So religious zealots and white nationalists often stand together. We saw them together on January 6th at the Capitol, the insurrection at the Capitol. But I do have to notice that religious opposition to secularism has also drawn support among conservative Black and Latinos in minority communities. The third division that I want to talk about is cultural. And right now it certainly overlaps with the religious division, but it isn't quite the same. And it is focused, our cultural debates are focused especially on issues of sex and gender, abortion, feminism in all its versions, Me Too opposition to male harassment and violence, homosexual and transgender rights, or generally equality across sexual and gender differences. And against this set of movements, we find defenders of what are sometimes called family values, which usually mean patriarchal rule in the family. And again, I have to notice that patriarchalism does have support among religiously conservative Black and Latino, mostly, I guess, Black and Latino men. And this was especially visible, disturbingly visible for some of us in 2020, when there was a small increase in the Black vote for Donald Trump and a significant increase in the Latino vote. The fourth division that I want to consider is regional in character. You just have to, you look at the political map of red states and blue states. And the map is very clear. The two coasts, the Atlantic and the Pacific coasts, against the heartland, all of the states in between. And there is truth to that description. It is true that racialism and multiculturalism, these are most vital in New York and California and the surrounding states of Connecticut, New Jersey, Oregon, Washington. Religious minorities and new immigrants are most visible and active in those states on the two coasts. Secularism is strongest on the two coasts, and center-left politics is dominant there, while right-wing and Trumpist Republicans rule much of the rest of the country, except for the larger cities, Chicago, St. Louis, Denver. It sometimes seems as if we are living in two countries, and you can imagine a red-blue partition except that blue America is not contiguous. There would have to be two blue countries and one more unified red country. But again, the cities would be an anomalous factor within the red country. Class division comes next. Despite the partial success of the civil rights movement of the 1960s and the feminist movement of the 1970s, despite that, the United States has become a radically unequal society. We are probably the most unequal among all the Western industrial states. And it may be, this is something to worry about, there may be a connection between the partial success, the incomplete success of civil rights and feminism, and the growth of inequality. Getting more women and more Blacks into managerial and professional positions upwards in the hierarchy without changing the hierarchy, without changing anything else, may serve to make inequality easier to maintain, easier to defend. In any case, the social and economic hierarchies have become steeper in our country, this country, and the men and women at the bottom of the hierarchies have become more and more vulnerable, more and more anxious about their futures in America. More and more Americans live in poverty or on the edge of poverty, on the edge where an illness or a period of unemployment could send them into deep poverty. The collapse of the labor movement, the loss of union strength due to right-wing attacks, effective right-wing attacks, and neoliberal indifference is a major factor here in producing and sustaining inequality. Looking back, I think the great failure of the Clinton and Obama administrations was this, that they presided over union decline and did pretty much nothing to reverse the trend. And so the result is a highly disorganized working class, a very troubled working class that has turned, and the troubles and the disorganization has turned many workers away from any kind of liberal or left politics and created a pool of support for nationalist demagogues. And Donald Trump has very skillfully taken advantage of this condition. So I put class division last, not because it is the least important, but rather because it is, for those of us with long histories on the left, it is the most important, the underlying division. That may not be right. Race and culture run deep, and they have their own histories about which we are learning more and more these days. But still, the working assumption of the Biden administration is that economic inequality is central. Class comes first. Biden and the group of liberal and left people that he has appointed, I have to say how unexpected that those appointments have been. But Biden and that group seem to believe that the only way to overcome our divisions is to lift the working class out of poverty and out of jeopardy, out of vulnerability. And then they hope, and I hope, that nationalist resentment and nationalist fearfulness will not disappear, but decline in significant ways. And then there will be a good chance of rebuilding the old working class and minority alliance, the alliance between white workers and Black and Latino workers, most of them workers, an alliance that was central to the American liberal left over many decades. Biden and his people intend a new deal, an American version of social democracy, as a way of bringing us, or they hope enough of us, together and repairing the torn fabric of our democracy. The test of their plans will come in a little more than a year with our too frequent congressional elections. I have always been a worrier, and I am worried now, but I do hope to be a happy man in November 2022. And with that, I wish you good talk, good times, and good results from your work these next 3 days. Thank you.